My name is Marcus Reed. I'm 27 years old, and I need to tell you what my mother did to me. I stood on her front lawn in Atlanta, under Grandma's magnolia, with a judge at my shoulder, my fiancée Imani's hand in mine, and a manila folder, heavy as cinder, in my palm. Linda, the woman who raised me, the woman who smiled like porcelain in public, and cracked sharp in private, had looked my fiancé dead in the face an hour earlier, and said, "No ring for you. You're black." The house went quiet. Even the wind had manners. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. By the end of this story, you'll understand why I had to stand up in front of church folks, family, and neighbors, and lay my receipts bare. The judge cleared his throat, and Linda tried to laugh like it was all some cute misunderstanding. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was all the years before. The winters, when the heat clicked off at midnight and I lay there holding my breath so the cold wouldn't take it. The afternoons I counted coins at the Dollar Tree while my supposed family strutted by in designer shoes. And the Sundays when she stood up in choir and told folks she was sending me $6,000 a month to help me get on my feet. 6,000, and me catching the MARTA 71 with holes in my boots and my blood sugar dancing wrong. Truth is, like water, it always finds the cracks. And I was standing right there, the crack widened into a canyon, about to pour. I wasn't born to Linda. My daddy married her when I was 5. He was black like me, Henry Reed, worked construction off Moreland Ave. Good man. He kept his boots by the door and his jokes stuck in the air like he was saving them for later. He died when I was 17. A roof gave out, the kind of accident OSHA pretends not to hear about. After he passed, Linda became legal guardian. She told the world she took me in like a stray, saved me from the streets. She told me plenty of things, like how I should be grateful, like how I shouldn't bring black girls to family dinner because we don't need trouble. If only I'd known what she was really doing. The day after the magnolia tree standoff, I kept seeing it play in my head backwards. The smell of collards and cornbread drifting out, the folding tables set with potato salad and a silver dish of banana pudding, the choir ladies fluttering fans with Jesus on one side and the funeral home on the other. Linda wore pearls. She put on that polished corporate voice, the one she reserves for deacons and donors. "We help Marcus," she told them. "About 6,000 a month. We do what we can." Folks turned their faces to me, pity like rain in their eyes, and then to my shoes with the duct tape cradle I'd tucked under the tongue. My heart broke. I swallowed it whole. I left without a word because sometimes silence screams the loudest. Imani followed, her fingers laced into my elbow, soft as prayer. We walked the 2 blocks to my spot where the paint peeled like winter skin and the AC wheezed like an old smoker. I twisted the deadbolt and we stepped inside. The refrigerator light came on and showed me 2 eggs, a bottle of hot sauce, and a half-full jug of milk going brave into its last days. The rent notice curled up on the counter next to orange prescription bottles. Metformin for my sugar, naproxen for my back. I held them, one in each hand, like a pastor holds 2 truths that can't be preached together, heat or medicine. Do I pay Georgia Power to keep the lights warm, or do I keep my body from crumbling in on itself like an old church? I chose the pills that night. Sometimes you gotta choose living over living comfortable. That night I lay on my sagging mattress and watched the ceiling fan tick its rhythm. I counted out quarters and dimes in my head for bus fare, while Imani traced little circles on my forearm. "Mar," she whispered, "they don't get to decide what love is." I closed my eyes and let that sentence be a warm blanket. Family is supposed to hold you up. Family is supposed to love you when the world don't. Family is supposed to feed you when the refrigerator hums like a ghost. But family, in my case, was a lie that needed constant maintenance, like a bad engine you keep pouring oil into so it don't seize, even though the whole block know it's time to rebuild. The next morning, I went to work. Night shift at the warehouse off Fulton Industrial. Forklifts buzzing like fat yellow bees. I strapped on my back brace and told my body we gotta keep moving. Respect isn't inherited. It's earned shift by shift. The supervisor, Mr. Huntz, nodded when I clocked in. Reggie, my guy from the receiving dock, bumped fists. "You good, Marcus?" he asked. "I will be," I said. I always said that. I keep hope like loose change. I find it where I can. Around lunch, I went into the break room to see if anyone left a slice of pizza. That's when I remembered the shoebox I'd shoved into my locker months back, the one with old mail I meant to sort, and my cracked Android I kept for music. I pulled it down. The phone was swollen at the battery like it had secrets inside. I dug out an old charging cord and held it up like I could resurrect it. I plugged it in, and that stubborn little green light came on. The screen flickered, and there they were. Months of bank alerts with my name, but a routing number I didn't recognize. Voicemails in Linda's voice telling me, "Son, you have everything you need. Stop asking for more." I pressed the speaker, and her voice filled the room like mildew. "Marcus, I took care of the forms. No need to stress yourself. I've been so generous, you wouldn't even understand the numbers." That's when I knew. That's when my marrow turned cold. I kept scrolling and found emails from the Social Security Administration addressed to me, but the confirmations had been forwarded to another email, hers. The paper I found next changed everything. It was a PDF of a power of attorney form, or rather something that pretended to be one. The signature at the bottom said, Marcus Reed. But my own handwriting bends to the right when I get nervous. Always has. This one leaned left like a drunk at a bus stop. I confronted her 2 days later. I went back to the house. It still felt like ours, though Daddy was gone and Grandma's voice only lived in recipes. Linda let me in, all bright smile and lemon pledge. Family photos lined the hallway, everyone pale and pink, and me in the corner of frames like a smudge. Tin roof, I remember Grandma used to say when the rain fell hard. She'd look at me and say, "You're mine, baby." Linda had watched me drink that love like water, and she'd found a way to tax it. "Ma'am," I said, because my manners built me even when others tried to destroy me. "I found some paperwork. I need to understand." She laughed, that silver tinkle that turned to tin in my ears. "Son, you're getting confused again. Adult life is complicated. Taxes, benefits, estates. None of it is simple. I've been handling it for you. No need to embarrass yourself." "I ain't confused," I said, and the AF slipped out like my shoulders exhaled. "I ain't crazy. I'm tired, but I remember everything." She tilted her head like I was a stray barking. "Who will believe you over me?" she asked, eyes sharp. "No one will believe you over me?" I looked at the polished oak floor, saw my reflection cut into slats. They said I was confused, but I remembered everything. At church that Sunday, West End Missionary Baptist, she stood and told the congregation again about her $6,000 monthly support, like she was reading from the book of Linda. Folks clapped, bless her heart. Some hugged her. Later, I heard the whispers at Fresh Cuts barbershop. "Linda's boy can't get it together. She giving him all that money. He gotta be on something." I sat quiet under the cape while Tony lined me up and kept my face still. The mirror moment hit me. The first lie, told in a holy place, would one day be undone right where she told it. But not that day. Not yet. Where are you watching from? Has family ever betrayed you like this? Drop your city in the comments. Tell me what you would have done. I started documenting everything. I printed bank statements that showed deposits of survivor benefits into an account that was not mine. I compared the forged power of attorney signature to a permission form I'd signed at the warehouse. The slant was wrong. The curl on the R was too tidy. I took pictures of my apartment, the mold bloom in the corner, the sink that coughed brown for a minute before Jesus fixed it. I photographed the inside of my fridge, empty as a flavor. The evidence felt like bricks in my backpack, and I carried them everywhere. A lie needs constant maintenance, like a bad engine. I didn't have money for a mechanic, but this I could fix with patience. Reggie helped where he could. He printed my time clock punches for days when bank managers said I'd come in. "Bro," he said, flipping through the pages, "you were on the forklift from noon to 8. If you were downtown signing anything, I'll eat this paper." We laughed, but the chuckle died quick. "I got you, Marcus," he said. "I'll testify if you need me." I had one more piece to catch. I started recording my conversations with Linda. Georgia's one-party consent law. I set my phone on the table when she invited me over to talk like adults. She poured sweet tea and said, in that careful tone meant for witnesses, "You're ungrateful, Marcus. We've invested so much. The adoption subsidy alone." She stopped herself, eyes cutting to where my phone sat. Too late. I had her saying the words. I had a thread to pull. The private family meeting happened because they told me that was the mature way to handle concerns. We sat in the living room where 1,000 Sundays had made grooves in the couch. My stepsister Kayla sat stiff, chewing her cuticle. Two aunts, both from Linda's side, looked at me like I was gum on a shoe. "We're worried about your mental health," one said. "You're not seeing things clearly." The other nodded and looked at Linda like she hung the moon. I laid the papers on the coffee table. The bank statements, the adoption subsidy deposit schedule, the stimulus check rerouted to an email that wasn't mine, the Social Security bank notices. "I just want what's fair," I said. "I have the receipts right here." I kept my voice even. I called her ma'am. I didn't let my hands shake. "Son, you're embarrassing yourself," Linda said, eyes shiny. "No one here believes this story. We have always helped you. You should be grateful for what you have." Kayla wouldn't look at me. Someone said, "Ungrateful." Someone said, "Delusional." Someone, Aunt Meredith, with the Louis Vuitton bag and the matching scarf, whispered, "He just wants attention." They called me liar, without saying the word. They thought I'd just disappear quietly. But the thing about disappearing is, it's hard when the truth keeps tapping you on the shoulder. 2 days later, Miss Alberta May, our elderly black neighbor from 2 doors down, knocked on my apartment door with a Tupperware of peach cobbler and a look like she'd been waiting to exhale for 10 years. "Mr. Marcus," she said, her voice warm and stern all at once. I seen more than folks think I seen. She sat at my rickety table and watched me fetch 2 spoons. "When your grandma Eloise got sick," she said, "she gave me some mail to hold. Said, 'Keep this safe from foolishness.' She knew what she knew. I ain't never opened a thing, but I got it. Tucked." She looked down. I also heard Linda on that phone more than once. "He don't need it," she said. "He should be grateful we even let him in here. You don't deserve this treatment, baby." She came back the next day with a faded manila folder. Inside were letters addressed to me, not opened. One from the IRS, one from the state, one from a bank that didn't sound like mine. There was also a church bulletin with a handwritten note from Grandma. For Marcus, school, or first home. I felt my throat clamp. I took the stack to Atlanta Legal Aid Society on Peachtree. That's where I met attorney Nina Tran, tiny woman with eyes like she measured twice before cutting. She reviewed the papers, listened to my recording, and said, "Marcus, this is strong. The POA is suspect. The signatures don't match. The estate documents, have you seen the will?" I hadn't. "We'll get it," she said. "You have rights. You have more than they told you." Deacon Harris from church heard about my meeting with Nina because Miss Alberta has a direct line to Jesus and the grapevine. He asked me to come by the sanctuary. We sat in the front pew, the kind with a memorial plaque for some cousin who made good. "Son," he said, "God loves the truth. If you have it, stand in it, but do it with dignity." I nodded. "Yes, sir." A lie had walked into church. The truth would walk back. The smoking gun wasn't a gun at all. It was a Bible. Miss Alberta called one evening and said, "Come over, child. Bring that lawyer lady too." We gathered in her kitchen that smelled like cast iron and cinnamon. She pulled Grandma's worn Bible from a bread box, the spine patched with clear tape like a wound tended with care. Inside, behind a page of Psalms, was an envelope. Nina opened it with a fingertip. Out slid a codicil, notarized, dated 2 weeks before Grandma's stroke. It left the proceeds from the sale of her little rental house on Ashby Street to me, to be used for school or a first home, in Grandma's own looped hand. Nina compared it to the updated will Linda had filed at probate, the one that left everything to Kayla and to charity. The notary stamp on Linda's version was off. The date format was wrong for Georgia, and Grandma's middle initial was misprinted. "This is fraud," Nina said, not a whisper. We can move to set aside the probate judgment. I cried then. Not loud, just that deep cry that starts somewhere in the meat between your ribs and comes out in small, shaking breaths. Imani held me like she was catching me so I didn't fall through the kitchen floor. Deacon Harris put his hand on my shoulder and said, "The Lord sees." The room tilted. It wasn't just money, it was my name. It was Grandma's voice that Linda tried to silence. Think you know the betrayal? Here's worse. Think it's just cash? It's also dignity. Think it's one person? Others knew and kept. Quiet, because comfort is a soft prison. We decided to go public, not Facebook messy, dignified, clear, firm as bedrock. Share this story if you think families should protect each other, I said to the tiny camera on Imani's phone as we recorded a teaser to draw folks to a meeting. And if you don't, come hear the receipts. Preparation took weeks. Nina worked up petitions. Reggie printed and notarized statements that proved I was working when bank documents claimed I was downtown. Miss Alberta called folks and told them to drag themselves to Linda's front yard on Saturday, like a block party, but holy. Deacon Harris agreed to moderate because folks listen when the deacon says, "Be quiet now," and the hush falls like rain. In the background of all that, a blessing wore sneakers and knocked on my door. Miss Alberta sat me down with Imani and said, "I'm moving to an assisted living home over in College Park. I don't want some developer to snatch my little house and flip it to a rent I don't recognize. You're the one Eloise would have wanted in it. The price? Child? I got a fixed number I'll tell your lawyer. We'll make it work." I stared at her. The tears came fast. We hugged till the corners of our bones thought we were all one person. Nina handled the closing with the kind of care you give a newborn. We kept it quiet. We moved money from the little settlement I won in a small injury case years ago, added a grant for first-time buyers. Bobby at the credit union smiled tight, and I walked out holding a copy of the deed with Marcus Reed and Imani Bell typed crisp. My hands shook the whole MARTA ride home. A new beginning doesn't erase the old bruise, but it keeps you from pressing it every day. The morning of the reveal, the sky was hot, and the magnolia threw a smell like honey and old secrets. Linda had set out folding chairs for her church friends. The linen tablecloths flapped like curiosity. She didn't know yet, or maybe she did. Maybe her hands trembled around that pitcher of lemonade because the lye engine was sputtering and she didn't have any more oil to pour. "Good afternoon," she said, voice bright as white teeth. "Thank you for coming. We're here to celebrate family and to correct some unfortunate rumors." She looked at me then, the way a cat looks at a bird through glass. "We have supported Marcus for years. About $6,000 a month, in fact. He has always been our priority." "Ma'am," I said, standing, "with respect, that's not the truth." My hands were steady. I set the portable speaker on the table and pressed play. Her voice came out, tinny and too clear. "The adoption subsidy alone," she'd said weeks ago. "He don't need it." Murmurs. A couple of folks gasped like someone had slapped them. The magnolia leaves barely trembled, like even the tree was listening. I held up the bank statements. "These show deposits meant for me. Going into her account," I said, each word plain. I held up the forged power of attorney. "This is not my signature." I showed Reggie's time logs. "This says I was at the warehouse when someone signed as me." Deacon Harris took a mic and shushed the crowd. Folks leaned in. Linda's lip trembled, then tightened. "That could be anything," she said. "Clerical errors happen. Are you really going to embarrass this family?" The corporate voice was back, parted just so. "No one will believe you over me. Family is supposed to tell the truth," I said. "Family is supposed to keep the law. Family is supposed to love, not steal." I looked at Imani. I looked back at the faces I'd grown up trying not to offend. Family is supposed to show up when you're counting pennies for bread. I nodded to the judge standing to the side. He stepped forward, black robe folded over his arm. Two witnesses came too, Miss Alberta and Reggie, with straight backs. "I have one more thing," I said. "No ring for you because you're black. That's what you said to my fiancée on this lawn." Heads turned. The silence had taste. "I am a man," I said. "I'm black. I'm Southern. I'm working class. And I'm worthy. If you don't bless our union, we'll bless it ourselves." I took Imani's hands. The judge spoke words like water washing mud off a stone. We said I do. Miss Alberta cried with her whole face. Kayla, my stepsister, covered her mouth, then dropped her hand like she'd been holding something heavy too long. When I kissed my wife, the house went quiet again. The wind said nothing at all. And this, I said after, lifting the manila folder that had traveled like a heartbeat against my palm, I pulled out the crisp deed. Marcus Reed and Imani Bell, I read, owners of the house next door. The neighbors clapped before they knew whose house it was. Then they did the math. I lifted a hand. Y'all come by for cake, I said. All are welcome. It took a second, like rain takes a moment to decide how hard to fall. Then you could hear it, some people gasping, some laughing for joy, some backing toward their cars like the truth had teeth. Linda's face was smooth and white and blank, like she'd removed herself from her body and put a mannequin in her place. It tripped from there into collapse. Kayla stepped forward, voice shaking. Mom opened a card in my name, she said. She said it was for household emergencies. I found out I had a balance I never charged. I'm sorry, Marcus. I'm so sorry. The old in-law from my daddy's side, Ms. Jolene, nodded. I never saw a dime of the rent she said she collected for Eloise's place, she said. I asked. She told me to mind my white business. Well, I'm minding it now. Church folks looked at Linda with eyes that didn't soften. Deacon Harris cleared his throat. Sister Linda, he said, gently but plain, until this is resolved, I think it best you step back from the Women's Committee. The word step hung like a broken stare. She tried to say clerical error again. She tried to say he's confused again. She tried to call me ungrateful, crazy, liar. But the sound was weak now, a lie with no oil, a bad engine seizing. The authorities got involved because Nina made sure they had to. We filed with the bank fraud unit. We filed with the probate court. We filed with the Social Security Administration. We filed with the IRS. Paper makes noise. The first detective looked at my binder and shook his head. I ain't seen a case this clean in a minute, he murmured. He didn't say that out loud when Linda was around. But you could feel it. Truth had slipped through the cracks and was riding the plumbing into every room. I went home that night to our new house next to Linda's and sat on the floor because we hadn't moved in furniture yet. The wood creaked like it was happy to be holding us. Imani brought over 2 paper plates with cake slices sank heavy with frosting. They tasted like second chances. The windows were still dusty, but the air moved different. The ghost of hunger was quieter here. We slept on a mattress on the floor, the kind of sleep you get when your body finally believes you. We woke up and made fried eggs and toast, ate them on the porch, and watched cats slide under cars like little shadows. Sometimes justice looks like breakfast. The months after were a braid of relief and grief. The grand jury in Fulton County indicted Linda for theft by deception, forgery, and identity fraud. She showed up to court in a pale suit that looked expensive but too tight at the neck. Her lawyer said misunderstandings. The judge said intent. Nina sat next to me and drew diagrams in her notes, boxes connected by lines. Our case wasn't flashy. It was steady, like the work my daddy did before roofs, taught him how gravity felt. Restitution came next. The court ordered Linda to repay diverted survivor benefits, adoption subsidies, my tax refunds, and the stimulus checks she'd rerouted, with interest. They placed a lien on her big suburban house with the high HOA fees she used to brag about. The probate court set aside the fake will and reinstated Grandma's codicil. The rental house sold to a family with a toddler who learned the steps the first week. The proceeds hit my bank and I cried again, because money is always more than money when you've had none. When you've been told you had it while you held bus fare like a prayer. The church changed too. Some folks apologized and meant it. We had no idea, Sister Cole said at fellowship, eyes soft. We should have listened. Others avoided me like I was a mirror they didn't want to stand in front of. I didn't chase them. Community isn't consensus. It's who shows up with potato salad when your lights get cut. And people did. Some came by with Casseroles. The men from my shift came on a Saturday with rollers and paint and turned our living room from green-brown sadness to warm sunrise. Reggie brought his little boy who wobbled around on knees too big for him. We grilled chicken and poured sweet tea and watched the walls dry. I kept my job. Pride looks better when it's got a paycheck. The warehouse added a shift differential, and I picked it up so I could pay down what Linda had put in my name. At the same time, I started something else, something that felt like suture rather than bandage. With Nina and Deacon Harris, I hosted receipt nights at the West End Community Center. Folks came with shoeboxes, with plastic bags of mail, with fear in their eyes and hope in their knuckles. We showed them how to read a bank statement, how to set up alerts, how to file a theft report. We told them what a forged signature can look like. Miss Alberta came and brought pound cake. People walked out taller. The truth always comes to light. Every time I told the story publicly, I said the same few sentences because in hard times you need words with a grip. They said I was confused, but I remembered everything. I said, family is supposed to love you, not put their hands in your pockets while they pray. I said, I may be young, but I'm not stupid. I said, the truth always comes to light. Where are you watching from? Has somebody in your bloodline made you choose between heat and medicine? Comment below if you've seen this happen. Share this to spread awareness. Not every part of the story was clean. Kayla and I had coffee on our porch one afternoon. She cried the whole time and said, I knew something was wrong. She told me not to ask questions, that you were troubled. I listened. I set boundaries. You're my sister, I said. Blood or not, I don't know how to do life without you, but it can't be like it was. She nodded. We took it slow. Love remains, even when you stitch it together with a new thread. Linda, I wish I could tell you we hugged it out. We didn't. She texted me once. You'll regret this. I didn't reply. Later, her lawyer sent a message asking if I'd consider dropping charges to spare the family. I read it at our new kitchen table while Imani sliced onions. I put the phone face down. She asked you to spare the family, Imani said, eyebrow raised as if you weren't family. We laughed, bittersweet. Dignified poverty beats wealthy deception. Every time. On the day the restitution check hit, I went to Goodwill with Imani and bought a sturdy wooden table, the color of coffee. We carried it home ourselves, sweating and laughing, stopping every 10 steps to adjust. We set it down in the middle of the room and sat there, hands on the wood, the grain moving like little rivers. Truth is like water, I said. It always finds the cracks. Imani nodded. So does love. One night, early on, I walked to the gas station because the power bill and the medicine had both taken their bite that week. The dark felt heavy, but not vicious. My shoes were still the ones with duct tape under the tongue because Rome wasn't built in a paycheck. A Mercedes eased by, and for a second, I thought I saw Linda behind the wheel. Pearls glowing like moons. The car didn't slow. The night didn't swallow me. I kept walking. You learn to carry your body through the world with dignity, even when the world tries to fold you up. Parallel timelines haunted me at first. Public lies versus private truth. Me in the church basement eating potato salad while Linda shook hands and told folks she was bankrolling me like I was a charity with a face. Me at the Dollar Tree counting out quarters while she bought another pair of heels, while Kayla posted brunch pictures with mimosas in tall glasses. I wore the same jeans 3 days a week. I kept my diabetes under control with cheap food and prayer. I learned the bus schedule so well I could tell you where the 71 would be if it was 3 minutes late. I watched other people throw away leftovers and felt my stomach cramp with memory. The false bottom of all that is this. When you realize what was taken, you mourn more than the dollars. You mourn the way you walk differently because of lies. The first time we hosted the block for Sunday dinner at our new place, I stood in the kitchen with a spoon in my hand and breathed in a whole future. Fried chicken, collards with turkey necks, mac and cheese with the top crisped right. Imani made yams that had the room humming. We set plates on the table I'd carried, and I looked up to see faces that had doubted me eating the food God gave us. He prepares a table, I thought, smiling. I caught sight of Miss Alberta's old magnolia out the window. reaching its green fingers over the fence like it was curious about us. "Come on in then," I told it. "Eat." It wasn't all victory. Some nights the old sadness curled up on my chest like a cat and made it hard to move. I'd dream of Daddy, his hands cracked, his laugh stuck mid-joke again. I'd hear Grandma's voice say, "Tin roof," and wake up with tears on my face. I'd remember the first moment someone told me I was lucky to be taken in, like love wasn't my right. I'd remember Linda's lips forming around the word black, like it was a bruise on her tongue. Those memories don't go away, but they don't run the house anymore. I started talking to young men on the late bus, too. I'd see them counting coins like I used to, and I'd strike up a conversation. "You got any mail you don't understand?" I'd ask. "Bring it to the community center on Thursday." They'd look at me like I was selling something. "Free," I'd say. "Just free." Some showed up. They learned. We built a little army of people who didn't sign anything without reading it twice. We told each other where the cracks were. We poured the truth into them. "Marcus," folks would say sometimes at church, "I can't believe you keep coming back here after all that." I'd shrug. "Where else I'm gonna go?" I'd say. "This is my church, my God too." Faith despite betrayal is not foolishness, it's resistance. You don't give the people who hurt you the keys to your joy. You change the locks. There's a memory that sticks to me like sap. Before all this, late last winter, I was at the Dollar Tree with $3 in change and a mental list. Bread, rice, maybe a can of beans. I was counting coins on the counter, trying to act like it wasn't humiliating. I looked up and saw Kayla's Instagram story on the screen above the registers, the one that plays local ads. She was in Lenox Mall, smiling, a Louis Vuitton bag on her arm, Linda kissing her cheek. The caption said, "Mama's Day Out." I stood there counting out quarters and dimes while my stepmother drove past in her new Mercedes, the one she bought with money she claimed she was sending to help me pay for my heart medication. My heart doesn't have a prescription, but it hurt anyway. I knew then. I knew I was done being the quiet problem child in their story. I knew I was going to write my own. When we finally had our day in court, the pews were filled with people from both sides of my life. Church ladies in hats, warehouse guys in clean t-shirts, Kayla in a blouse that looked like an apology. Linda sat at the defendant's table and stared at a point on the wall. The judge spoke without drama and with authority. He listed the counts. He accepted the plea that avoided trial but acknowledged guilt. He laid out restitution with numbers so precise they felt like blades scraping old rust away. I listened. I breathed. I held Imani's hand until my fingers ached for losing circulation. By the time we walked out into the sun, we were lighter, not light, lighter. That night, I went to the magnolia tree. I know it's still Linda's yard, but trees don't belong to people. People belong to time. I touched the bark. "We did it," I said, not out of spite, out of survival. The leaves whispered something I chose to hear as yes. I turned toward my house, toward Imani's silhouette in the kitchen window, toward the table waiting for us both. I'm not the hero in this story. I'm just a man who picked up what was mine and made sure the folks who tried to steal it couldn't. If you see these signs, mail going missing, family telling you, "We'll handle the money," signatures you don't remember signing, people bragging in public and withholding in private, stop, breathe, and gather your receipts. Ask for help. Atlanta Legal Aid Society saved me. Reggie's time clock printouts saved me. Miss Alberta's faith saved me. Grandma's handwriting saved me. You don't have to fight alone, and you don't have to let your dignity get pawned for someone else's image. Sometimes I think about that first sentence Linda said to Imani, "No ring for you, you're black." It's funny in a bitter way because she was right about the ring, but not the way she meant. The ring wasn't for her to give or withhold. It was ours. Our love was not waiting on her permission slip. We married ourselves in front of God and the magnolia. We invited the neighborhood over for cake, and the house went quiet because the truth had entered and sat down like it lived there. We're okay now. Not rich, not fancy. We got bills like everybody else. We still shop deals and stretch chicken 2 days and go to Goodwill for something that still got life in it. We go to church. We bow our heads when deacon prays, and we sing like throats can heal things. We watch out for each other. We help others watch out for themselves. And when someone tells me family is blood, I say, sometimes it's who shows up when you're counting pennies for bread. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. What would you have done in my shoes? Hit that like button if you believe the truth always comes to light. Subscribe for more stories of truth over lies. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next one. Share this so the next Marcus doesn't have to choose between heat and medicine. And if it happened to you, come to Receipt Night on Thursday at the West End Community Center. We'll be there with coffee and pens, ready to help. I didn't write this for revenge. I wrote it so my younger self hears it across time and stands up sooner. I wrote it so my grandma's handwriting keeps working past the grave. I wrote it so folks who hear "no ring for you, you're black" hear another voice louder in their chest. You are worthy. You are already yours. I wrote it because work is holy and love is stubborn and truth doesn't change just because someone tells it prettier. The truth doesn't dress up. It shows up. And if you're in your own winter counting coins wondering if you're crazy because people say you are, listen to me. You're not confused. You remembered everything. The truth might take the long train, but it's coming. Keep the door unlocked. Keep a light on. Keep your receipts. And keep some cake in the freezer for when your future shows up hungry. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if this helped you or made you think. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Someone you love might need to hear it.